Blue Marvel is one of the most powerful superheroes in the Marvel Universe, and yet most people have never heard of him. Why? He's not a C-list character. He's not somebody like Swarm or Quasar or Cypher. He's an actual true blue, pardon the pun, superhero. And yet, if you look at how he's being treated, Marvel Comics won't touch him. The MCU won't even acknowledge his existence. Yet, if you put him up against Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers, he is organically more valuable. We have the sales data that proves the market values Blue Marvel 5 times higher than the character they just spent roughly $400 million to force on you. It isn't about popularity, it's corporate malpractice. Now you may say to yourself, what difference does it make? Marvel's got hundreds of characters they can pull from. Why Blue Marvel? What's so special about him? Well, when you leave characters on the table, characters who could tap into specific markets that Marvel has not addressed in a very long time, the primary victims of that decision are the shareholders and the legacy fans. Marvel is leaving out a specific market vertical. In this case, those that would be interested in complex Black Superman type archetypes. And they're leaving that market open completely for competitors like Amazon with The Boys and Image with Invincible to dominate and take over. By refusing to publish Blue Marvel, Marvel is voluntarily ceding market share and revenue to its direct rivals. Hey, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and tap the bell for notification. It helps us grow and it helps us make more videos just like this one. If you've never heard of the character Blue Marvel, that's not a surprise because he has gotten so little play when he probably deserves a lot more. The character was first created in 2008 by Kevin Grevioux. Now, if you don't know that name, you probably recognize his face and you'll certainly recognize his voice. He was one of the lead werewolves in the Underworld series. He does voiceover work. He's an actor, so he's not just a comic writer. Now, Grevioux created the character known as Adam Brashear, who was retconned into the Marvel history. He was a Korean war vet, Cornell fullback, and antimatter reactor who was arguably the strongest hero of the 1960s. He didn't just vanish due to low sales. He was erased in canon by President John F. Kennedy Jr., who asked him to retire because a black man with the power to split the moon was, quote-unquote, a powder keg the government couldn't handle. Now, so right off the bat, even though this is a recent character creation, he's already steeped in mythology, he's already steeped in history, and he has a distinct sociopolitical aspect to his character. If the character was created in 2008, you may ask yourself, well, why haven't we seen him much? Where did he go? What happened? Was it just a terrible character? No. The derailment happened immediately following his debut around about 2009. Despite a successful introduction that established valid lore and mythology that goes back in some cases decades, editorial refused to integrate him. Instead of capitalizing on the momentum of his launch, they placed him in a sort of void from 2010 to 2012, stripping him of his solo book and relegating him to background cameos, effectively killing his momentum before it could even begin. So the character was right, the way he was developed was right, every aspect of his character presentation was right, but editorial decided to put him in the back corner, if you know what I mean. Well, no decision happens in a vacuum. So the question you might ask yourself is, why? Why was he put on the back burner? The resistance really comes from editorial gatekeepers. Executive editor Tom Brevoort, and there's a name we're familiar with in Marvel, has described comics as fodder for film. And when a creator like Kevin Grevioux, a successful Hollywood outsider, presents a vision that disrupts that status quo, the not invented here syndrome kicks in. Editorial prefers malleable characters they can control, not high-concept powerhouses owned by the creators with more Hollywood clout than the editors. There's definitely an ego aspect going on here as far as who makes the decision and why, and they're not looking at it purely from a financial success perspective. They're looking at it from a control and ego perspective. Before we dig in, do you need a thriller where the heroes are villains and the apocalypse is the plan? The Revelation cycle throws ordinary man Kyle Jacobs into a hidden war against his protectors. The Antichrist is rising, and the celestial beings want him to succeed. Who can you trust when the only way to save the world is to defy the heavens? Stop scrolling, grab the book right now, click the link below, and start the cycle. Now let's get back to the video. What makes this decision even more baffling is how much Marvel has been banging the drum about diversity in their lineup, using different characters from different ethnic backgrounds, different religions, different countries of origin. They want a diverse rainbow lineup. They want the whole melting pot possible. So you say to yourself, well, Blue Marvel is sitting right there. He's not a brand new character. He hasn't been used a whole lot, but he's definitely right there, ready to be used. And he's a strong black man who's very intelligent. Why don't you just take him and do something with him? But Marvel being Marvel, laziness is the order of the day. Instead of utilizing Blue Marvel, an original, historically grounded character, Marvel relies on mantle swapping, which is taking one character who's established, typically male and white, and then swapping him out with a woman or a person of color and reimagining existing characters rather than using ones that are already established. This lazy strategy alienates core fans like you who are listening to this video right now. Blue Marvel is the antidote to this problem. He is his own man, not a replacement. Yet Marvel ignores him to pursue divisive strategies that yield low returns. We have yet to find one example where a character was color swapped or race swapped or sexuality swapped or whatever you can imagine where that turned out to be an improvement. Why go down that route and use the characters that have been established correctly from the get-go, but when the situation arises where they could do that, they choose not to? So there isn't just a loyalty cost or a fan base interest cost to these type of decisions. There's also a financial one. The secondary market proves that the demand for Blue Marvel is real. A CGC 9.8 copy of Adam, Legend of the Blue Marvel #1 hit sales records of over $2,600 for that single issue. Fans are paying thousands of dollars for the one story Marvel let Kevin Grevioux tell, while Marvel refuses to print new ones. The customers are screaming for the product with their wallets, and the manufacturer is refusing to sell it. That is the direct opposite of how a company is supposed to function. A company is supposed to make things that people already want and then sell it to them. Fans are telling you they want it, but Marvel is refusing to make it. Now, I mentioned earlier that they are opening the door for competitors to take advantage of the market that Marvel refuses to. Well, let's get a little bit more specific about that. Amazon and Image Comics, very specifically, are poised to dominate that market. We've already seen success in that area with the deconstructed evil Superman genre, and that's a hot trend in media right now, driving billions of value towards the boys with the character known as Homelander. He is a walking meme and people love him. Amazon has now dominated that specific space in the superhero genre, and the same goes for Invincible with Omni-Man. Blue Marvel is Marvel's only answer to this archetype when we're talking about the strong, confident, black Superman type of hero. A hero who deconstructs the Superman mythos. By shelving him, Marvel has allowed Amazon to monopolize the most lucrative trend in the superhero genre. And it's only going to get worse the longer they wait. This all comes back to the concept of mismanagement, particularly at an executive and editorial level. I'm going to give you 4 examples right now that underscore that point and give you the proof that you need to make sure that you understand this is truly happening. First, we're going to start with Nate Moore. He's a Marvel Studios executive explicitly confirming that the character's narrative retirement was due to the volatility of the era, reflecting the corporate hesitation to tackle the subject matter, in this case, a strong, powerful black man who's a superhero. It is Nate Moore's statement about John F. Kennedy actually asking Blue Marvel to go back undercover because he's scaring people, because he believes he's going to upset the powder keg of the civil rights era, and by extension, upsetting the powder keg of the current era of the 2000s and the 2010s. Marvel is looking at the current political climate and saying, we're not going to bring out that character right now because it might create some controversy or might ruffle some feathers. That's coming directly from an executive at Marvel Studios. But what about Marvel internal, their executive teams within the comics division? Let's go back to executive editor Tom Brevoort, who openly admitted that the publishing line's priority is not quality storytelling for its own sake, but serving the film division. Here's his direct quote: "The publisher's current purpose is to develop new ideas and new stories that can serve as creative fodder for eventual film and animation development." So that means either on one front or the other, film executives are telling Brevoort, we don't want this, or Tom Brevoort and the executives within the comics division are telling Marvel Film Studios that they're not going to develop that character because they don't think it's a good idea. So Blue Marvel is getting the short end of the stick from both ends. Third, there's that financial disconnect we talked about. The first edition, a CGC 9.8 graded copy of Adam, Legend of the Blue Marvel, sold for a record $2,600, a little bit over. But additionally, a 9.4 copy jumped from $245 to $800 in a single year. That's a 226% increase. What does that mean? That means that there is a massive gap between what the consumers want and what the corporation is willing to supply. which is exactly the fault of the corporation. It's their job to figure out what people want and give it to them. So the more these prices go up, the more clear that divide becomes. And last but not least, this is what we talked about in the beginning of the video about understanding how is it that Blue Marvel, we can say with a straight face, is more valuable than Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. Well, let's look at the tail of the numbers, please, shall we? Disney spent roughly $400 million, if you include production and marketing, for 2 films in which that character appeared as a central character, to position her as the face of the MCU. Her first appearance in Avenging Spider-Man number 9 as a comic traded for roughly $500 at a CGC 9.8. So if you're a collector and you understand what that grading means, her very first appearance, $500. That's not bad, but it's not great. By comparison, we've already talked about this, Blue Marvel, Adam Brashear, Disney spent $0. $0 on marketing and gave him 0 minutes of screen time so far. But his debut in his number 1 issue trades for about $2,600. That means the market values the ignored character 5 times more than their flagship character who's supposed to lead them into the next era of whatever the MCU is going to be. They're trying to ram Carol Danvers down your throat, spending a bunch of money to do it, when a more powerful and more interesting character is standing right there on a pound-for-pound metric, comparing their first appearances, he's 5 times more valuable. That's got to tell you that there's a big problem in how they're making decisions. Look at the situation. We've got a character. He's developed, he's integrated into the universe, he's got a backstory, he's got the history, and from all accounts, his debut was very solid. But he's being ignored. And so you have to ask yourself, if it's so easy to identify and clearly there's market demand for him, why is Blue Marvel not getting more play? Why is he not getting more face time in the spotlight? Why is Marvel refusing to budge on Blue Marvel? The answer is simple, but maybe there's some nuance that we have to be very careful about. The broader answer is they're risk averse. It's safer for an editor to approve another Spider-Man variant or some kind of low-risk team book than to tackle a character who requires writing about the complexities of the 1960s segregation era and managing Superman levels of power scale that break standard plots. We talked about this in a previous video. Most of the writers and the editors are kind of lazy when it comes to power scaling. They're very lazy when it comes to power scaling. So when you have a Superman level type character, you have to be very clear about the power scales, what kind of villains you employ, and how those action sequences need to go and how the story plays out. You have to be very crystal clear and very laser focused on keeping everything consistent. If you don't do that, the story falls apart. Now, there's a secondary piece to this that we have to be a little bit careful about. It has become increasingly clear, at least to me and maybe to you, that Marvel seems to have trouble with, shall we say, strong, black, straight male characters. I'm not necessarily saying that there's a mandate involved, but if you look at what's happened with Black Panther, if you look at what's happened with Luke Cage, if you look at what's happened with Blade, especially in the MCU and also in the comics, every time there needs to be some sort of focus or appreciation or uplifting of a strong, black, straight male character, Marvel seems to drop the ball an awful lot. Now, could you make some inferences about why that's the case? I think that would be not unreasonable, but we have to be very careful about not making a definitive statement about whether or not Marvel has a problem with strong black men. That could be a problem. I don't know. But if you look at the observational evidence, there might be some hard questions that need to be answered. Now, secondary to those hard questions, you have to also ask yourself, what does Disney think about all this? I mean, they are the top umbrella company, and I'm sure if Disney executives came down, Bob Iger came down and says, I want this, it'll happen. So where is Disney stand, and what kind of pressure are they applying in one direction or the other? Is it their fault that there is no Blue Marvel either in the comics or the MCU? The answer is yes, entirely their fault. The Disney corporate mandate requires what we'll call brand safety for global merchandising. A hero whose origin story involves the US government and JFK being explicitly racist is probably unsafe for lunchboxes and theme parks. Plus, it's pretty clear at this point that trying to market a black hero in the Asian countries like China doesn't always go over too well. I mean, that's just sort of the way it is. The external pressure to be family-friendly yet appeal to an international market is neutering the storytelling potential of their most mature assets. They could do it. They should do it, in my opinion, but they're probably not going to, not because they just don't want to, but because they're trying to market billion-dollar characters to a billion-plus people over the entire world, and not everybody's just going to go for it. And so you could say, well, yeah, maybe there's some corporate cowardice going on. That may be the case, but, that's up for you to decide. What's the solution? I mean, we'd love to talk about the problems, but I always want to try to end these videos with a solution or a path forward. The solution lies in treating the audience like adults. I mean, we're grown-ups. Stop treating us like we're ignorant children. The path forward is what we'll call the Oppenheimer strategy. Greenlight a Blue Marvel solo film or Disney Plus series, not as a superhero movie, but as a period piece political type thriller that will appeal to the grown-ups. It won't necessarily appeal to children. It's not meant to be on lunchboxes, but it should gain interest if it's done well. Lean into that whole powder keg problem. Don't run from it. Embrace it. Until then, the smart people, who are primarily collectors and generally speaking the people who listen to this channel, will keep buying the back issues, and the executives will keep wondering why their modern movies that are trying to appeal to everybody are still failing. If you want to keep the conversation going and get the industry truth before anyone else, I invite you to subscribe to the Comical Opinions newsletter. Every week you'll get exclusive links to comic reviews, my raw weekly insights on the comic industry's biggest decisions, and more, delivered straight to your inbox. It's the best way to support the channel and stay informed. You can sign up using the first link in the description below. It's completely free. Now, go read comics, but read wisely. I'll see you next time for more Comical Opinions.